Welcome to All the Things podcast. So glad to be back with you guys today. We are going to start off talking about hard things. Here, this is a safe space where we come together and we talk about all the things. I had a situation that occurred last week that kind of boiled over. And so I guess what I'm hoping you capture today is begin to see things in your life as integrated as opposed to functioning in silos. And here's why I say that. I was given a book. I was gifted a set of books to read. And one of the books that I'm reading is called The Gap and the Gain. And the concept in this book didn't really begin to make sense to me until after the situation I'm going to tell you about today. So here we go. I have a student. He is now 8 years old, 7 years old last week. And one of the activities that I was doing with my student was working with Legos. I know that he loves Legos, but we needed to develop some fine motor skills to help with writing. And so I bought an itty bitty Lego piece for his lesson and had him to construct the Legos. It made a present. He constructed the Legos with no problem. He loves Legos, works with Legos all the time. He was a little reserved when I told him that for class today, it wasn't about the construction of the Legos, but more about the deconstruction of the Legos. Catch that, if you will. Sometimes life is not about the construction of a thing. It's about the deconstruction of the thing that's going to build the muscle that you actually need to be building. So he's deconstructing this Lego, and immediately he gets frustrated because he says, I can't take off the flat pieces. If you know anything about Legos, there are different types, different shapes, but these little flats sit into the Lego and they really are hard to pry off. They're designed to be difficult to pry off. So he looks at me immediately and he says, I can't take off the flat pieces. My dad always helps. And I looked back at him and I said, but your dad isn't here. So you're going to have to figure it out, buddy. And you could see this visible frustration build on the inside of him. Now, don't think that I'm mean or harsh. One of the things that I do with my students is I build intentional frustration with them so that I can coach them through how to overcome frustration. So this is a strategy, not me just being a mean teacher. However, he begins this process of self-talk, negative self-talk about how it's going to be too hard for him to take apart the Legos. He's never had to deconstruct by himself. And as he's doing that, I'm giving him pieces of the Lego and encouraging him, take apart the pieces that you can. So he gets to the flat pieces. And of course, he's already told himself that it's going to be difficult for him to take off the flat pieces. He says, I can't do it. And I held up the bag of Legos that he had already deconstructed. And I said, I have a bag of evidence right here that says you can. I want you to look at the bag of evidence and I want you to recognize that you've already proven to yourself that you're capable of doing something that you told me at the start of this lesson you could not do. He looked at the bag of evidence and he couldn't argue with me. I want to challenge you to look at the evidence in your life. Look backwards at the things that you've already done that you thought you could never do to prove to yourself what you're capable of. What ended up happening with this particular student, I kept dangling that little bag in front of him and he kept prying away and he got one of the flat parts off and his eyes lit up. Right? How many times does that happen for us in life where we actually do the thing that we thought we couldn't do and then it rejuvenates us. It makes us excited. It makes us ecstatic about the hard thing that we're trying to do. So he got the flat part off and he was ready now to go against all of the flats. He got all of the flats off and then he came to this little levered piece and the levered piece was giving him some resistance and he couldn't get the levered piece. And he said, but I can't do this one, but I can't do this one. This one's too hard. This one is impossible. And I said, impossible? He said, it's impossible. I said, are you sure? I said, have you tried every strategy that you know to try to get this piece apart? He said, yes. I said, you've tried every strategy that you know? Yes, Miss Chastity, I've tried every strategy. And I said, have you tried every strategy? He knows if I ask something more than twice that he's probably wrong. And so he said, what strategy haven't I tried? And I said, look around. And he said, I didn't ask you for help. How many times do we think something is too hard? How many times do we think that something is impossible, but we haven't leveraged our sphere of influence? We haven't leveraged our community. He said, I haven't asked you yet for help. I said, you're right, you haven't. And he said, will you help me? And I said, no. But that's all right. They're accustomed to my nose as well. I said, I need you to try 3 more things before you come to me for help. And so what I was doing was helping his brain to process that even if the person that you go to isn't available to help you, that doesn't give you the option of quitting on the task. I'll say it again. Even if who you're hoping will help you doesn't help you, that doesn't give you the option to quit on the task. He tries to put the Lego against the table and bash it against the table. He tries to pry it apart using a stapler. He tried to use a little cardboard box to pry it apart. None of that would work. And he said, none of these things that I've tried will work. Now will you help me? And I said, yes, of course I will. You have given your very best effort, but now I need you to tell me, what do you need me to do? And that was key, because sometimes when we go to people for help, we expect them to know what we need them to do instead of us being able to articulate to them how can they best serve us. Prepare yourself when you go to ask for help to know what it is that you need. Already have put in the hard work of trying all the things that you know to try, so that when you're asking for help, you know specifically what you're asking for help with. He said, I've tried to lever it and I see that it can come apart, but I'm not strong enough. You're stronger than I am. Will you hold the Lego? So I did what he asked me to do, and he leveraged and leveraged and leveraged. And while it wasn't easy, eventually he popped the piece off. And after all the frustration and all the tears and all the red face, you would have thought that that baby received the best birthday, the best Christmas present, the best gift he could have ever received in the world, because he had proven to himself that he could do hard. We put the Legos in the bag and he said, I want to do it again. And I said, nope, not today. But we came back the next day and I had the Legos again. And I said, you know what time it is, right? So this time we're going to see how long does it take us to construct and deconstruct. And each day we're going to try to get better at it. So that day he put the Legos together. He deconstructed. He got to the flats and he was already telling himself this is going to be hard. And I said, is it? What did we learn yesterday? He picked up the bag of Legos and shook the Legos. And I said, yeah, you've got evidence to prove that you can do this. He did the hard thing. He got to that last little lever piece. And again, it was giving him the fits. Finally, he said, will you help me? And I said, yes, I'll help you. Day 2. He breaks the lever piece apart. We put the Legos in the bag. We did this for 3 days in a row. And eventually he began to have his confidence built that he could do hard things, even though he'd never done them before, that he could leverage his influence and leverage his environment and the people in his environment to help him after he had tried and given his best effort. We go into the next week, and the next week he's partnered with a friend on the same activity. And that time he becomes the cheerleader for that student. He tells them, this is going to be hard, but we do hard things on purpose. Today, I want to encourage you to do hard things on purpose. There are going to be a lot of Lego moments in your life. There's going to be lots of opportunities to try things and fail. There's going to be lots of opportunities for struggle. It's going to meet you. You cannot avoid it. But I want you to approach it with a shaken bag of Legos kind of attitude. I want you to look at the evidence in your life that supports that you can do hard things. You can do hard things, and you should practice doing hard things on purpose. You should remind yourself time and time and time again. So connecting it back to this book, I'm reading this book called The Gap and the Gain. And one of the key components of the book is looking at your life and measuring your life, not by the ideals and the goals that you set for yourself, but measuring backwards is the concept. It talks about looking at all the things you've accomplished from a certain point in your life to where you are now and measuring your progress instead of your performance. And you guys hear me say this all the time in education. One of the things that sets what we do at Arte apart from what any other school does anywhere that I've ever found is we emphasize progress over performance. If you are measuring your progress against where you were to where you are, you're always winning. You hear me say it again. If you will measure your progress from where you were to where you are, you're always winning. If you are measuring your progress against this ideal place that you intend to be, you'll never get there. You will always feel empty. You will always feel like you're not enough. So many of us in life set goals, and the goal actually should not be the thing that's motivating you. What should be motivating you is the fact that you have proven to yourself time and time and time again that you're capable of being an overcomer. You're capable of travailing through hard things. You're capable of connecting with people when you need to connect with people to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. We have to learn how to be satisfied with a just enough. We have to learn how to be satisfied with a manna provision from God. You guys, let me tell you, the last book that I read before this gap in the game was a book called Manna. And it's a phenomenal book, but it was really a chin check for me because for me, what Manna provided was my Lego moment. What manna showed me was that as the children of Israel were exiting Egypt, God provided a manna provision for them each and every day. He provided just enough, except for on the Sabbath. But every other day of the week, they would go out and everything that they had need of was provided. As I'm reading this book, the Spirit of God is dwelling up on the inside of me, really, just intensified on the inside of me to say that actually our life today hasn't changed since the children of Israel were leaving from Egypt. Every day that we wake up, we have exactly what we need for that day. It is us who always has this ideal or this goal that is set that makes us feel like we're not measuring up, that makes us feel like we're operating from a place where we lack sufficiency. If you watched the initial video before I even started this podcast, when I was hanging out with my friends at Fossil, one of the things that I said was there is enough sufficiency for all of us to be successful. And that is true if we shift our mindset to know that what you have today is sufficient for today. I want you to pause for just a moment and I want you to think about wherever you are, whatever the timestamp is on your life right now, this moment, this day. I want you to pause for just a moment and I want you to think, what do you lack? Some of you will say, I lack finances. I lack the resources to be able to pay for my bills. Okay, that may feel like it's true. What's your bill? So if your light bill is late, but your lights are still on, there's manna provision for the day. If your light bill is late and your lights are off, but you have someplace else to go, that's your manna provision for the day. If your light bill is due and your lights are off and you don't have any place to go, you haven't yet found your manna, but there is a place for you to go. Your manna provision is there. We never lack what we need because the God who created us won't allow it. He said, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. What we have to learn how to do, guys, is we have to trust the manna provision. We got to shake the Lego bag. We have to remind ourselves that where we are today is exactly where we're supposed to be, and that's enough. I'll say it again. We have to remind ourselves that where we are today is exactly where we're supposed to be, and that is enough. It's one of the hardest concepts to chew, swallow, and digest, but it is absolute truth. If we stop pushing ourselves to our ideal and we settle in on the just enough for today, we find joy, peace, love, all of the fruit of the Spirit begin to manifest in the moment. There's a gratitude and an appreciation for what this moment is. Some of you might be watching and you say, yeah, Chastity, like that's true for you because like you're in your house, you're filming this podcast, you have this, you have that, you have this school. What you don't know is my struggle. What you don't know is my struggle. And offline, I would love to have a conversation. Come sit on the couch. I would love to have a conversation with you because I'm transparent. We just don't have enough time in the day, but I'm very transparent about my struggle. What you see me have, what you see me operate in is the manna provision on my life for today. If there's a peace that you experience in my presence, it's because I'm operating from a place where I know the manna provision on my life for today is just enough. And y'all, it is a fight for me to maintain that mentality because the rest of the world wants me to chase an ideal. The rest of the world wants me to believe that no matter how much I've accomplished, I'm still not there yet. The rest of the world wants me to shift my character, be better, change who I am, be greater, pursue more. The rest of the world wants me to believe that. But God is saying, what I have given you for this day, give me this day my daily bread. What I've been given for this day in terms of daily bread is just enough. And I want to challenge you to look at your own situation. And I want to challenge you as you look at your own situation to begin to see what you have as just enough for today. That doesn't mean that it won't change tomorrow. That doesn't mean that the place that you're in right now isn't painful and hard. Even your pain and your hardships are the sufficiency that you need for today that build the strength that you will utilize tomorrow. If you've ever been in a hard situation, that is your bag of Legos. It is your proof. It is your evidence that you can and you will get through and come through. It is the proof. It is the evidence. So guys, today, please remember, shake your bag of Legos and remember that you can do hard things and really try to build a mentality that is based on manna, where you recognize that whatever you have today, it is just enough.